Aloha. Uh, Today, well, first off, I want to thank Tiffany for inspiring me to do this video today because I hadn't really said much on the dome and what I think about the dome and the whole setup. I've conversated with a few people about what it's all about, but for some reason it never really was like a big deal for me. Like it never really sat in any kind of like importance file in my email box or something or whatever. It was just like if today the globe model is not really a big deal. Like it's only a big deal because it's full of shit. Like that's why it's a big deal right now. But like so the dome itself is basically just like an obvious relation to an intelligence, a creative intelligence that has designed this place, this flat earth that we are experiencing. So there's a design to the sun and the moon and the patterns there. There's a design to the dome itself and over the dome and under the dome and the way the whole thing is put together. It's not some cosmic mistake like the Big Bang is saying. Everything is just like, yeah, it's just about science and the Big Bang and dinosaurs and evolution to monkeys and the university system and Einstein, and then that's it. Just go to school, go to work, have babies, shut your mouth, die, and then do it all over again. I mean, that's like the most simplest version of like reality. Is like ultimately the kind of like atheistic version of reality. There's no connection there, and like atheism itself, I was gonna do a whole video on that, but atheism itself, like when I first, okay, so this was like in 2011. I was sitting in the shower after after a good run, and at that time I was running every day, I was working out, I was going to school, I was doing everything I was quote unquote supposed to be doing, but I wasn't happy at all. Like I was not happy. And when I was in the shower, I asked myself, I was like, well, what's your connection with God? What do you really think about God? Like sit down, shut the fuck up, and what do you really think about God or your spirit or your existence or whatever? This was in 2011, right before I got out of Cal State. I was just like, I'm done with this. But I was thinking, like, what is that? Like, what is that? I don't know. I'm not gonna ask anybody else to tell me what that is because it has to come from inside. And then I started to realize, well, it sure as hell ain't about only the physical reality. It ain't only about like what we see as like going to school. University system doesn't have the answers. That's also what kind of like projected me into that space of questioning, because going to school wasn't giving me any answers. It wasn't like I was involved. I was doing good. I had a little bit of sense of accomplishment, but it had no connection to my reality as a whole. I was an English major at that time, and then I was just like, okay, well, this is it. I got 2 more years of this. This is bullshit. And so I started to question my reality a lot more. And then that's when I started to ask questions. And going back to the atheism topic, this morning I was thinking to myself, Because at that point, when I was in the shower, that's really what I was questioning. I was like, do you believe in a spirit, a higher power, or not? And then I could not, with any part of me, say that there is nothing else. Like, there is no spirit or whatever. I couldn't do that. Like, there was something in me that was just like, all right, well, you just got to check it out, feel it out for yourself. Let the answer come to you on its own, because that's usually how the right answers come, or the most resonating answers come over time, by just allowing them to happen. And then that's when I started to look into like how, what I was really asking myself, and then started to think about like atheism and stuff, and then seeing in that stuff now, it was just like I would have to convince myself outside of my natural feelings, and just be like, well, this feels kind of like lazy in a sense. Like, at that point, because it was a lot of work that I had to do to go answer these questions and go figure out like what am I really asking here? What am I really doing? What does this all mean? And then if I was just gonna be like, oh well, yeah, it's just nothing, it's just me, I just gotta go to work, and then science, and then that's it, and then pretty much that makes science and the professors and the university systems God, and they're really creating my reality for me. It's like this projection or this experience is not really at all connected to anything excuse me, beyond what I'm experiencing now as a physical reality. So dreams don't matter, psychedelic experiences, and those, and all the people who ever seen anything beyond that don't matter. Even people who, the people who believe in a higher power, even through religion, all that stuff doesn't matter. All the ancient teachings, all the sacred geometry, all that stuff doesn't matter. All the indigenous connections to spirit and the ancestors and their all their ancient cosmology, like all that stuff, it doesn't matter. It has no place. That's basically what atheism is. It's just like, no, it's only about science and excuse me, the Big Bang, and you know, just don't worry about it. Just rationalize the scientific observation of your reality, and then just let it go. And there was way too much out there that I was already aware of and connected to with my family, and my basic curiosity. There was way too much out there, so that was kind of like my answer in itself, without having a formal answer of, you know, what this place is, who am I, like who are we, what are we doing here, what all this means. And only recently have I been going into like the actual physical makeup of the earth plane itself, because I had to first go through the inner standings of who and what I am / we are, as a whole, on like a mathematic, geometric scale, sacred geometry, and the heartbeat and dreams and understanding all this stuff as a whole. And coming back to the flat earth, it was just a part. It was just like, if we are the whole body as experiencing this divine reality, then the flat earth itself is really just like an eyeball. Like, it really is just like an eyeball, and then it just like goes back on itself over and over again. And then all the scripture is just like the instruction manual, or the observation manual of, you know, your your physical body. So at one level, it's really like another version of how science creates a foundation for atheism. So scripture, I guess, kind of creates an instruction manual for the divine physical reality. And there's something about that with me that's just like there's something more to it. Like, it's relevant, it all exists, but like science is just doing what the church has been doing for centuries. And if we get caught up in just one version of our observable reality, we'll be missing out on the maximum potentiality of our experience. And this is where the Mandela effect comes in, as far as how I relate it to the flat earth, because the flat earth is a way of engaging in your physical reality beyond just the scientific version, even beyond scripture, in a sense, because you are no longer limiting yourself to giving your power away. You are actually challenging yourself to look beyond what your eyes can see, your physical eyes can see, and looking within and looking beyond the dome and looking beyond religion, looking beyond scripture, looking beyond all of this, beyond CERN and the scientific engagement in that whole thing. And like, CERN is just an extension of the science community and NASA trying to tell you that they own and understand space. They understand it more than the indigenous people. They understand it more than your divine spark. That's what science does. So CERN, which has just been a United Nations version of the science community science project, just to keep the idea of power, the idea of like, this is what it is, this is what it's all about, this is what where we came from, and this is where we're going. But that's not what it's all about. It's beyond that. It's that's just them trying to make it seem like they're they're doing all this stuff. Now, they might be involved in they might very well have some kind of like scientific observation of dimensions and all this stuff. This intelligence, this energy that has locked down the consciousness of an entire race of beings on a plane of existence is very intelligent. You have to at least give them that, whatever the them is, and then work your way back into understanding your reality from your perspective, from your magic space, like whatever cosmic connection that you can connect to on a conscious level, and then start observing your reality from that space, rather than getting locked into older versions, because we could be the scripture of us just communicating and understanding this is scripture right now. Like, we are the scripture for like however many centuries later right now, is because we are undoing the jacked up stuff that has happened. And then like, there's gonna be people that'll be like, oh well, like what happened during that time frame, and we are in this time frame right now. So this is a space outside of time. It's like, what happened when people only believed in Oprah and Beyonce and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Obama and Bernie Sanders? Like, what was it like back then? Like this. So if time doesn't exist, then we have to understand that yes, all this stuff like scripture and science and CERN, it is very relevant in some level. Like, you have to be aware of it. I'm not saying throw any of it out of the window. Take it for what it is, and then empower yourself to go beyond just those observations and see what else is there. Like, you can't just get some information and just stop and start celebrating, being like, oh yeah, this is it, we did it. Like, you didn't do shit. There's more to it. Like, there's more to this reality. There's more to this experience. If we did it, then we wouldn't still be here. Like, you can't start throwing a fucking party about whatever when there's still people who are struggling, and still people that are still caught up in like one basic layer of this, because that is a reflection of who you are. So, and that's not going as far as you can go, because there is still this magic out there that is working against people, that is keeping people locked into a very controlled grid on a physical and spiritual plane. And this is magic. You can see this everywhere. So this is taking the duality, taking the natural harmonics of this positive and negative, electrical and magnetic, feminine and masculine, yin and yang experience. They're taking these energies and flip them on themselves, like taking these like the Sri Yantra as a pyramids, 9 pyramids, 5 going down, 4 going up, and meeting at a center point. Like, this whole, the energies of the balances that were understood outside of, this is why this goes back into me explaining like my perspective on scripture too, because scripture is one layer of scripture. Then there's like a geometric scripture, and then there's like all these other cultural scriptures that are out there that also make sense and that also are very relevant, just as relevant. So when you ball them all together in a very natural space of understanding, then you can see a storyline there that is beyond any kind of worshiping of one version of it. Like, it all fits, it all matters. So how does it all matter? How did it all matter back then? How did it all matter in the grand scheme of things that led up to now? And how does it matter now? Like, what are we going to do now? And how are we going to do what we're going to do now? And we're all doing it by asking questions and talking to each other and seeing what this stuff is all about. At the same time, you cannot look only at one version of reality and say that's all what it's about, because that's another trap. That's another linear way of experiencing your reality, where you can get caught up in another trap, another version that is just limiting. And so knowing that the flat earth is well known by the United Nations and the government and all that stuff, and even knowing that, then the actual science of this place will definitely be utilized as the kind of the next chapter of enslavement. That's the only way that they can lock this in, is take what they've already created and weave it into. So take the science communities, take the university system, take CERN, take all of these experience and weave them into a scientific observation of what the dome is, what the earth plane is, what our experience is, and how we are here, and then just leave it at that kind of still that enslavement state of mind, and possibly even utilize the scripture as the new religion, or at least as a foundation to the new religion, and then kind of just be like, oh well, this is how it is, and this is what was in the past. This is what we've been hiding from you guys, and we'll release all this technology to get people distracted into like what our potential for this transhumanist evolution place that they're trying to create. And then meanwhile, we'll never look into how we are actually experiencing this reality, how we are actually creating this physical reality. If it goes from spirit, soul, mind, body, the body is very last. So the firmament, the flat earth, the dome itself, that's just the body. Like, this is just an eyeball. It's very relevant. It exists. We have to understand it, definitely. But to vest all our energy in only that seems, it seems like something that is not, it's kind of missing the point to me. Like, if this exists, which I have experienced myself, like, this is why I've had ayahuasca experience, I've had mushroom experiences before, I've had San Pedro experiences. I know what's beyond the physical reality, at least on those versions of experiencing a reality. So, and I'm not the only one. There's many people out there who have gone there, and then you come back and you share your experiences with people and talk about them and understand them. And all this stuff makes sense. It's all very real, and you can't necessarily explain it. Like, this stuff, like, how the fuck are you going to explain that? Like, how are you going to explain how are you going to explain that? Like, how are you going to explain any of this stuff that's on this psychedelic art page right now? This is inexplainable, and this is where the so-called powers that be are hoping that we don't go as far as understanding our foundations and our reality, because this is uncontrollable. Nobody can control this. It's inexplainable. And so in order to keep people in the physical reality, because the dome was one way to keep you in the physical reality, but that was through ignorance. But you can very much be caught up in only the physical reality, even with an understanding of the physical reality, like a worshipping of the physical reality, which is what I'm kind of feeling is the next step to this whole control grid. Because this hieroglyph right here is how the ancient Egyptians understood the waters of Nun and the flat earth plane and the stars in the dome. But they didn't worship that. Like, it wasn't like, this was an observation. This is why I don't go too far into the dome, because that's just an observation of our reality. It's more to, there's more hieroglyphics to our experience than that. And the Mandela effect is a proof to me of how we are affecting how we experience this reality, with just our engagement on some level, on like the initial level. The universes that are splitting from how I'm seeing it. There's like this space of people who are stuck in the physical reality and giving your power away in one universe, where they'll believe whatever their artificial construct mind has created them to believe, the Google Hive mind, the television mind, the just like, oh, I just came here to watch TV and play video games and have babies, and then that's it, and then nothing more, no connection to spirit. And then there's this other universe that's being understood as existing, which was always at the like the pillars, the infrastructure of all of these experiences, that universe is becoming more and more, it's brighter and more engaging and more relevant to a greater mass of people. So we're seeing and experiencing this shift as like the Mandela effect. And we're like, no, I remember this. I remember when it was Berenstein. There ain't no Berenstain. I remember Looney Tunes. I remember, and it's mixed into, because some things, the memory is like, it's iffy, but there are some things in the Mandela effect like that are just not iffy. This shit is not, you can't throw, if any one or two or three of these is real on or like it's repeatable, or you can understand it on more than like just a few people, then that makes it very important to try to understand what this is. It doesn't matter how which ones are not real or which ones are not, that's not how it was. It wasn't this, like JC Penney's, like I don't even want to go into all this stuff, because this is just like the little stuff in relation to the bigger picture of what this is all about, like how we're experiencing our reality. And then the physical reality is or at least this human experience of physical reality is all very relevant. It's all very like, okay, and connected to our past and our future. But there is a space beyond that is very, very important and very very relevant in an infinite space. So I guess this is all freezing up right now, so I guess that's it. I'll leave it there. Thank you for joining me. Till next time, peace, love, and harmony.